Under the surface, 2 caving accidents that ended in death today. We're going to look at 2 scary true accounts of caving trips that went horribly wrong, both literally and figuratively. These stories aren't just about things like natural disasters or broken equipment. They are stories of hopelessness, bad decisions, and finally, death. It is strongly urged that viewers use their own judgment. One of these stories is so scary that the diver, who was stranded in the dark of an underwater tomb, decided to kill himself instead of facing the terror that lied ahead. Yes, it really is that intense. Story 1. The Deep Gallery of Death. Šolta is a small but beautiful island off the coast of Croatia. Šolta is a beautiful getaway from the mainland that is only 19 kilometers long and 5 kilometers wide. You can get there by ferry from Split. Tourists adore the quiet pebble beaches, the lovely Adriatic waters, and the native honey. But deep below in Pogan Bay, there is a dark, watery cemetery that only skilled divers know about, an underwater cave system that has taken many lives. Miroslav Čučaš, a 31-year-old man, was on vacation with some friends on Šolta Island on the night of September 10, 2002. Around 8:30 p.m., one of them said they should go diving at night. They had heard of a nearby underwater cave that was known to be quite dangerous. This was a tempting dare for tourists who wanted to get their adrenaline pumping. They were determined to explore it, even though they weren't very good at diving. They got a local boat operator to transport them to the entrance, which is 10 meters below the surface at Pogan Bay. There was only one way into the cave system, and it was a narrow, vertical tunnel that divers had to go down head first.
When they got inside, the divers would come to a fork in the road. To the left was the shallow gallery, which went down 36 meters. The deep gallery on the right was far more perilous because it went down 57 meters. There was also a trick in the deep gallery, a small isolated air pocket at the top of the ceiling. Beyond the fork, the cave was completely dark. The visibility got quite low. Moving about stirred up thick silt from the cave walls, making flashlights ineffective. Divers said it was like swimming in an underwater fog with their eyes closed. Still, Miroslav went in first, and then his 2 friends followed. He got to the intersection and turned into the deep gallery. He started to climb after touching the bottom at 57 meters. But then he made a deadly mistake. Instead of going to the exit, he turned into the shallow gallery. The darkness and the way the hallways felt the same made him lose his path. Miroslav kicked up silt in a mounting panic and sought to retrace his steps. He somehow reached the junction again, but this time he went the wrong direction and ended up back in the deep gallery. He was now out of air and stuck. He noticed the air pocket when he was frantically looking for a route out. The only good thing about the cave was that little pocket of air. He must have known he was going to die as he gasped for air. He was too deep to come up, and there wasn't enough air to live. Miroslav made a choice that no one could understand as death drew near. He pulled the dive knife out of his suit and stabbed himself in the chest. Later, the autopsy would prove it. Miroslav was not dead. He had killed himself. Above water, his pals had already fled the cave and were waiting nervously on the boat. They called for help when he didn't come up after 10 minutes, then 20 minutes, and finally, more over an hour. Divers were sent to help. Among them was 25-year-old Oliver Miraž, a skilled diver trained for sophisticated underwater searches. But even with his preparation, Oliver had never explored this precise cave. He and his buddy went down into the abyss, where the water was full with silt, and their flashlights had a hard time getting through. They got ready to come up because they were running out of time and oxygen. But like Miroslav, Oliver got his directions wrong and went into the wrong chamber, the shallow gallery. Oliver, too, became lost since he was trapped and confused. That was only the start of a second catastrophe. Story 2. Oliver Miraž's Final Descent. Oliver was more experienced than Miroslav, but even being skilled and healthy isn't always enough to deal with how unpredictable underwater cave systems may be. The shallow gallery, where he became stuck, is known for making divers lose their way. It appears a lot like the exit tunnel, which makes scared or novice divers choose it in an emergency. The cave is set up like a horrible maze. Even the tiniest mistake could cost you your life. Oliver's partner saw that they were apart but couldn't find him in time. He had to come up and say that Oliver was missing. The search for survivors became more intense. More divers came, including URCA cigarettes and cave recovery experts. They brought lines, lights, and extra oxygen with them. After a few stressful hours, they found Oliver's dead body curled up in the shallow gallery. He ran out of air just a few meters from the intersection that led to safety. Miroslav and Oliver both died in the same cave because they were lost and couldn't see well. They were stuck in chambers that promised no way out. Authorities have regularly told tourists to stay away from Pogan Bay on Šolta Island because it is home to an underwater tomb that has claimed multiple lives since. Even though these warnings have been given many times, fresh divers still trying to tackle the cave. For some, it's the thrill of danger. For some, it's the tempting sound of the unknown. The story of the cave has only expanded, and so has a disturbing trend. People who want to have fun are ignoring the indications on purpose, thinking they are better prepared, more vigilant, and more capable than the men who came before them. In the last few years, dive instructors in Croatia have seen an alarming spike in people trying to get into the cave without permission. Divers are posting partially edited videos of their risky underwater cave adventures on social media to get more views and likes, which makes the caves even more appealing. People who want to prove themselves often see the deaths of Miroslav and Oliver as challenges instead of warnings. It's a sad twist on two terrible occurrences. There have also been close calls, including when divers were saved just in time and found clinging to life in the cave's air pocket, barely aware and suffering from too much carbon dioxide. These incidents don't get much press, but local emergency workers know about them and get ready for the worst every time they get a call. Several times, attempts to block the entry have failed. Environmental groups say that closing down the cave could hurt fragile marine ecosystems. Legal experts say that enforcing a restriction in open water is hard, though. The entry is still open to anyone with gear who is prepared to accept the risks, even though it is underwater and not marked. Some diving groups have urged that the cave should be a no-entry zone with legal sanctions for anyone who break the rules. The cave still takes lives or comes very near to doing so, nevertheless, unless laws are made and enforced. This underwater maze is scary not only because it's dangerous, but also because it messes with your head. When no one else was nearby, divers said they heard strange sounds, like gear scratching against stone or air escaping. People have said that once they were inside, they felt a strange pressure or presence, as if the cave itself knew they were there. These feelings, whether they make sense or not, simply add to the cave's bad image. It's more than just a cave. It's a mental test, a way to see how strong and clear-headed you are. And those who aren't ready frequently pay the highest price. The cave is a wound that will never heal for Miroslav and Oliver's families. The pain comes back every time another diver goes lost or is retrieved from the depths. People have talked about their stories in diving forums and international safety courses as clear illustrations of what may go wrong. But even with all the facts, stories, and cautions, the cave is still open, waiting, looking. The sea doesn't have to roar to be dangerous in the end. Sometimes all it takes is stillness and one bad choice under the waves. But divers are lured to the thrill and peril like moths to a flame. Underwater cave diving, a death trap in paradise. What makes underwater caves so dangerous, even for experts? First, you can't see anything. There is space, movement, and light diffusion in a normal ocean dive, even when it's dark. The darkness is complete in caverns. It doesn't take long to get lost in space. Second, there is just one way to get in and exit. There are usually no other ways out of submerged caves. If a diver loses track of the trail, they are, in effect, buried alive underwater. Third, the silt buildup makes it impossible to go back the way you came. When you swirl it, it makes the water into black muck. Lastly, there's fear. Even experienced divers might feel the primeval fear of suffocation when they run out of air and get lost in pitch-black hallways. Rational thought falls apart. That's when mistakes that kill people happen. The cave's legacy. The terrible deaths of Miroslav Čučaš by suicide and Oliver Miraž by accident while diving are sad reminders for Croatia's diving community of how cruel nature can be. These stories are now used as warnings in diving classes. People have started calling the cave system near Šolta the Tomb of Pogan Bay, informally. There are caution signs up, and some dive firms won't go near the region. But explorers, especially those who haven't done it before, frequently don't think about how dangerous it is. They assume the blue waters are a hidden treasure that needs to be found. But that jewel has teeth that are really sharp. Final thoughts. It's not simply the deaths that are so scary about these stories. It's also the decisions the victims had to make in their last moments. Most of us can't even begin to understand how bad things must have been for Miroslav to kill himself. Oliver's mistake shows us that even ability and bravery can be beaten by time and misunderstanding. When you're on a gorgeous beach looking out at the ocean, remember this: the water holds its secrets well. Sometimes, though, those treasures are hidden in the quiet below the waves, in the dark tunnels where light, direction, and hope all disappear. People are very interested in things they don't know. It's what makes people want to climb Everest, cross deserts, and go down into the dark. But the ocean is a frontier that is very hard to see through. It's not just big and deep. It also has hidden parts that can devour you whole without warning. You don't just find strange animals and coral gardens under its sparkling surface. You come across dark hallways, changing currents, and tight areas that don't let you make even the smallest mistake. When you dive, you have to trust your gear, your preparation, and most crucially, your own mental clarity. Every second and every choice matter when you're underwater. This is not the time to hesitate or doubt. But that's exactly what these places make people do. They cut you off from others, confuse you, and take away your senses until all that's left is instinct. And when instinct is cut off from air and light, it can become fatal.